Hey, Motorman here. I just bought another motorcycle and it's not a Harley Davidson. I'm going to show it to you right now and explain why I got this particular motorcycle. Take a look. This is a Honda VTX 1300. It's a 2004 model. Yes, this bike is 20 years old. In very, very good condition, low mileage, just under 15,000 miles. And I'm going to explain to you why I bought this particular motorcycle. So come on, we'll take a ride and I'll tell you all about it. All right, so quickly to answer the question, why would I buy a 20-year-old motorcycle? Well, I'll tell you why. A lot of people come from out of town and they want to rent a bike to take my class. Most of them want a bike similar to what they're riding, and most of them, 95%, are riding Harley Davidsons. So I got the Electra Glide, which I rent probably just about for every class, and I've got a Sportster, which I rarely ever rent because even though that's probably the bike they should be on to learn the techniques, it's easier because it's so much lighter than a heavyweight touring bike. But nobody wants to rent that. They want the biggest bike because, well, they ride the biggest bike at home. If I were to buy another Harley Davidson for a rental, even a bike, a Harley 20 years old, if it had a little mileage like this one, this only has 14,800 miles on it, it's going to cost probably $8,000 to $9,000. This bike, on the other hand, I paid $3,200 for. Now, the previous owner had the bike sitting around probably for about a year. It needed a good detail, and whenever you get a 20-year-old bike, even though it's got low mileage, you have to expect that you're gonna have to put some money into it. For instance, this bike right now has no rear brake. I could step on it, does absolutely nothing, and that's because the rear master cylinder is gone. I checked the fluid. It's more water than fluid in there, so that probably ruined the master cylinder. So I've got one on order, but it's about, I checked it, it's about $60, not bad at all. And this particular bike is very similar in size to like a Harley Heritage, even a Road King, as far as wheelbase and rake. Now, this is an inch longer wheelbase and a steeper rake than you'd find on Harleys, but I'm going to lower this bike about 1.5 inches on the forks. That means just take these bolts out, let it slide up just a little bit. That shortens the wheelbase, so it'll be almost exactly the same as far as maneuverability to Harley Davidson, and for $3,200. Now, I know they're going to drop the bike. Not a big deal on a Harley with front and rear crash guards. I got the motorcycle drop guards, and you could drop them all day long. It's not going to hurt anything. There is no rear bag guards available for this bike, but it does have very good Linby crash bars up front. I'm very familiar with them. They work very well and almost keep the bike from tipping all the way over. In fact, in 95% of situations, they will keep the bike from tipping over. As a quick review of this bike, I bought one of these new, I think it was 2003, for my wife. She liked it very much. I had a VTX 1800 at the time, and this bike, brand new, sells for $9,300. And there were a lot of accessories available because they did make it from, I think it's 2003 all the way through 2009 unchanged. So the aftermarket had a lot of parts for it, accessories, and this guy put a ton of accessories. He said he spent a couple of $1,000s, which is really crazy to put a couple of $1,000 in chrome and stuff like that, because you're never going to get your money out of it. He wanted to. Originally, I think he was asking $5,500 for this bike. That's way too much money, but when I saw he had it for sale for like 12 weeks, I knew nobody was going to buy the bike for that kind of money, so I offered him I think $2,800. We went around and around. Eventually got the bike for $3,200. And as usual, well, the front tire is shot. There's still tread on it, but it's completely dry rotted. In fact, that's why I'm not actually going out on the road with it. But for my purposes, for the class, it is perfect. And it is in, the body looks great. It's, people rent it, they don't want to rent a junker. This is far from a junker. It's a perfectly fine motorcycle. It seems like it's more like a 2-year-old bike than a 20-year-old bike. With the low mileage on it, I don't expect any problems. It's been ridden enough to where gaskets and stuff like that are not going to be rotted out or ready to be replaced. Hopefully that's the case. So if I get away with just putting the front tire on it, rear tire is good. It looks probably maybe 3,000-4,000 miles on it. And like I said, the brake master cylinder, and it'll be ready to rent. So a little history on this motorcycle. Back in the 90s, late 90s, up until about 2007 or so, Harley Davidsons were very tough to come by. Had to put your name on a list, had to pay $5,000 over list, all kinds of things were going on. So the metric manufacturer said, well, let's get in on this, and we'll make them, thousands of them, we'll make them cheap, and we'll make them look like a classic American styled Harley Davidson. Which is what this bike is reminiscent of. It's, by the way, a very good looking heavyweight cruiser. And they sold well. As soon as Harley Davidson's supply met with the demand, prices came down, and pretty much the metric manufacturers said, well, let's cut down the amount of models, because they had a bunch of cruiser type bikes from the late 90s until about 2009. And this is one of the better ones, in that they were virtually trouble-free. So that's why I did. I hope you enjoyed this. Hope you learned something. And if you're going to get a bike, even no matter how nice it looks, if it's a used motorcycle, especially if it's 20 years old like this bike, just know in your head that you're going to have to put some money into it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Maybe you learned something. And please subscribe and check out my Ride Like a Pro experience video. It'll show you exactly what you need to do to control your motorcycle at low speeds. And of course, if you didn't know it, most motorcycle crashes occur at or below 20 miles per hour. So that's why low speeds are so important. Thanks for watching.